Don't you know what it's like to fall for someone, even though you know in your heart that it'll probably never work out, but you'd do anything for that person?
Nobody sat me down and taught me what love was. I don't think anyone sat you down either. We just kind of picked up the idea from movies and TV shows and songs and people around us and whatever our parents were doing in the kitchen when we thought we weren't paying attention. And most of what we picked up was kind of wrong. So today I want to go through the moments where cartoons got it right. And hey, sometimes your family may have gotten it right. This isn't a commentary on whether or not your family showed you what love is supposed to look like, but a lot of the times we don't get the right idea from the people in our environments. Some cartoons actually got it really, really right, and I want to talk about those.
What if it's not everything I dreamed it would be?
See, this is the part I don't see a lot of people talking about. Not that love or whatever you're dreaming about won't happen for you, but that it will, and then it won't feel the way you thought it would. Because we all grew up watching the same movies and hearing the same stuff, in general. Like you meet the right person, something clicks, you get a fairy tale love story, and then it's happily ever after. But then you actually like someone for the first time, and it's just panic. It's just your brain going haywire and your stomach doing something weird and you can't talk right, or you're not sure if you're feeling the right thing, or it's not going how you expect it to.
You're so wrapped up in layers, onion boy, you're afraid of your own feelings.
Go away.
And that's basically where most of us don't know what to do. Either you spend years waiting for it to feel like that movie and freaking out when it doesn't, or you just close the door and shut yourself out. You build your little swamp and you put up your little sign and you tell yourself you're fine being alone when you're really just scared. Or worse, you end up in a relationship and you don't know how to handle it and mess it all up.
Perfection and power are overrated. I think you are very wise to choose happiness and love.
Aang chose his feelings for Katara over the universe, and his conversation with Iroh was basically wanting to know if he had made the right choice. We're not the frickin' Avatar, so we don't have to face that choice. And so Iroh's words here are worth so much because love isn't a thing that happens to you, it's a thing that you very deliberately choose, again and again and again. Even when it's hard and weird and you don't know what you're doing and things are confusing. That you just know feeling everyone's talking about, the butterflies and the obsessing and all that, it runs on the same brain chemistry as a panic attack, which honestly explains a lot, and it goes away after a few months. What's left after that, if anything is left, that is the actual thing and the part that you need to maintain and build as a real relationship.
I know sometimes it hurts more to hope, and it hurts more to care. But you have to promise me that you won't stop caring.
Because the people who shut it all down to protect themselves, they don't exactly end up protected, they just end up with nothing and have to pretend that they're okay with it. But even after knowing all this, putting it all out there, taking that leap of faith, is still terrifying, no matter how prepared you are.
Sorry.
Falling in love is not the hard part. You can fall in love with someone in a heartbeat, sometimes faster, and your brain will handle the whole thing for you because it's extremely good at creating imaginary scenarios and making that particular chemical reaction, and has been perfecting it for over 200,000 years, and is part of the cycle of life and all that. But the hard part that makes grown adults act like they've never formed a sentence before is saying it out loud and making it real. Because what goes through a lot of people's heads is that the moment you tell someone you like them, you've given them something that you can't take back. You've become vulnerable. You've handed them the exact information that they would need to completely destroy you if they ever wanted to, just by rejecting you or using it against you. And I honestly think that most people, if you gave them the honest choice between jumping out of a plane and telling someone I love you when they don't know if the feeling is mutual or they just feel uncomfortable, most people would at least consider the plane.
I sort of gave up when we got to high school.
Yeah. I think that's when I started having a thing for you.
Isabella spent 11 summers showing up at Phineas's house and asking, "What you doing?" And Phineas never really noticed what was going on there. Not once. And she eventually just gave up on that. But when he eventually found out what she was doing years later, he panics and almost lets her leave. 11 years of someone being right there, and neither of them could say the words until it was too late. And there's a biological reason this stuff is so hard, by the way. Your brain processes rejection, or the possibility for rejection, through the same pathways that it uses for physical pain. The same region lights up, same chemical response. Your nervous system literally treats, "I don't feel the same way," the same as getting hit. Oof. So when someone is standing in front of you and neither of you can get the words out, that's not anyone being bad at communication per se, that's just their body telling them that this is dangerous, and them choosing to potentially do it anyway. Which, if you think about it, is kind of a really brave thing that a person can do, being vulnerable, jumping off that edge, you know? But saying it is only half of it, because once you've said it and they've said it back, congrats, and the scary part is supposedly over, that is when the other thing starts. The thing nobody warns you about.
Do you ever get that feeling that, like, to know you more is to love you less?
So you said it, they said it back, you're together now, and you'd think that's where your brain calms down a bit. But it doesn't, it just finds a new thing to be afraid of. Because now that you're actually closer to someone, they start seeing stuff.
You didn't know me? Then you fell in love with me?
Bojack's words here are voicing the thing that sits in the back of a lot of people's heads during that phase, which is this worry that the more someone gets to know you, the less they're gonna want to stick around. Like there's some version of you underneath the outer layer, that good first impression that is gonna be a deal breaker once they find out that really you're this monster underneath. And what most people do with that fear, instead of just sitting with it for a bit and seeing what happens, trying to process it, is they start trying to manage it in a bad way. You start trying to change things about yourself around them. Sometimes you're not even noticing that you're doing it, but you start trying to make yourself something different.
At least she treats me like I'm somebody.
Yeah, but would she love you if you were nobody?
Nobody loved me when I was nobody.
I did.
It's pretty obvious why what Oscar did never works, because over time, you end up building this whole other person, this mask, this alternate personality, and the actual you ends up taking a back seat, or at least it's slightly sidelined. And the longer this goes on, the harder it gets to walk this back, because now, if you try to show them the realer you, you're also showing them that everything before was kind of a show. You get so locked into maintaining this new identity that you built that you miss the person who's already liked you for who you were before you started changing yourself. You start assuming what it is they like about you and change the things that they actually liked. And when this facade finally breaks, because it does, it has to, time works that way, nothing good can really come of the whole thing.
You actually got me to care about you. What could you possibly hope to gain?
Roxanne is furious here because she just found out that Mega Man was in disguise the whole time that she was falling for him. And hey, maybe she wouldn't have fallen for the blue giant-brained guy. But the thing that makes this all sting is that everything she actually did like about him was really him underneath it and not the facade. The mask didn't make up a new person, maybe it gave her that chance to like him, but she probably would have liked him anyway because that's who he was underneath it all. This just gave him permission to be himself while hiding the face that he was certain that she wouldn't accept. Being able to be around this person who you like and want to get to know you is what it really comes down to. Being who you really are and letting them know this so that they can love who you really are.
I'm supposed to be beautiful.
But you are beautiful.
In Shrek, a kiss is supposed to break the curse on Princess Fiona and make her human. That is what the fairy tale said would happen, but instead, it permanently made her an ogre because that was actually her the whole time. She kind of was acting like an ogre the whole time, wasn't she? And she chose to remain in that physical form because that represented her. This kind of all circles back to where we started, because the story Fiona grew up on, the stereotypical forever after tale, told her that love would change her into something better. It would bring out that pretty white girl in her. But it didn't change her into anything. It wasn't that doing it. It just showed her that the thing she was hiding, who she really was the only thing worth keeping, and she found a relationship that mattered to her, and the physical part didn't. Shrek loves her as she is. And if this video ended here, that would be a nice place to stop. Someone sees you, all of you, and stays, no matter what you look like, but they just love you for who you are, right? That's the dream. But here's the catch. Love still can be a bit of a pain in the ass. You can get past all of your fears, you can drop the act, show up as yourself, find someone, they like you like them back, and it can still end. because sometimes it doesn't work out or it's just not meant to be, and no amount of honesty or effort can really change that. Sometimes you're just not compatible.
I love you, Victor. But you're not mine.
Emily means every word of that. She loves him, but she realizes midway through her own wedding that the love she's holding onto belongs somewhere else, and keeping it means taking it from someone who needs it more, and it's not right for her, so she lets go. And that's the thing that makes all of this so hard to sit with. You can do everything right, and through no fault of your own, still lose someone, and it could still just not be right. And the question that leaves you with is whether any of it was worth it, knowing that it was going to end. Spoiler alert, it was. Love is almost always worth it if you grow from it and you enjoyed the experience. And if you learn that someone's not right for you, then all the more so that you should value what you had along the way. Heartbreak is not the opposite of love. It's the tax on it. You don't always get the good part without accepting that the bill might be coming and you might not like it. And it's not because every relationship is doomed from the start and that you need to go through some heartbreaks before you get to the real one, but sometimes things end one way or another, and sometimes it happens more than once, and that's never fun, but it happens. The only people who avoid heartbreak entirely are the ones who never let anything matter enough and never try hard enough to be in a relationship and show their vulnerable side. Sometimes that doesn't work out.
I wanted to have a happy ending.
Is it possible you letting me go is the happy ending?
Princess Caroline and Bojack dated on and off for years. Dating, breaking up, going back to just being professional, falling into it again, breaking up again. 25 years of that. But at some point, Princess Caroline realized that loving somebody and being good for each other aren't always the same thing, and she'd been confusing the two for a really long time. Sometimes these two don't happen at the same time. This is one of those lines that just sits in your chest for a while because you can tell that Bojack actually means it, and also that he's probably right. And what happens after something like that, after you lose someone, whether it's your fault or theirs or nobody's, is that you're left with this choice about what to do with that pain. So you end up coming full circle and go back to putting up a wall. But it's not necessarily the same wall from before. The one from before was built out of not knowing. You'd never been through it, so you were scared of what might happen. This one is built out of knowing exactly what could happen, and that's also what makes this second wall harder to take down sometimes.
True love didn't get me out of that tower. I did. I saved myself.
You save yourself because it was the expectation from another person that hurt you, so you realize that the only person who can save you is you. The strength you get from that kind of thinking is undeniable, but if you're not careful, it's also the thing that keeps shutting the door afterwards. Because once you've gone through this and you're on your own again, letting someone back in feels like giving something up. It feels like letting go of some angst. And you tell yourself that that's you being strong when really it's just the hurt talking. So the longer you stay behind that wall, the more normal it starts to feel, until one day you can't even remember what it was like before you put it up. Our minds are constantly tricking us into putting on these masks, but we can't let it do that. We have to stay true to ourselves. Not everyone builds this wall, and I think that's the part that matters more. Not all of this happens to everyone. It really is an experience that can happen without you noticing, or happens to some people and not others.
In the darkest times, hope is something you give yourself. That is the meaning of inner strength.
Iroh lost his son, and he had every reason to end up behind that same wall and to put up protective layers and not let himself love again. But Iroh always kept an open mind and an open heart. And I know that sounds simple when you say it like that, but try standing in front of a door that already got you hurt once and deciding to walk through it again. That's what he did, every day, for the rest of his life, just to have that relationship with a family member where they both respected and loved each other. The reason he could do that, I think, is because he understood something about pain that most people don't figure out until way later. Maybe or maybe not after they go through the spirit realm. Love is not the enemy. It can never really be the enemy. It's not something you're supposed to get rid of. It's the thing that gets you connected to other people, and sometimes you can get hurt as a result of it. It's the thing that connects you, and everyone is carrying some version of love, some version of this meaning, some version of how they connect with others, and some version of the hurt that they've accumulated over time. People let different things show, whether it's their fear, their hatred, their anger, their mask in some way, or their love. And the people who show themselves and their love more are usually the ones who end up finding each other and staying together. I think that nobody in the history of animation has said that sometimes things don't work out and that's okay more clearly than Butters in South Park.
Well, yeah, and I'm sad. But at the same time, I'm really happy that something can make me feel that sad.
You can only really feel bad if something good came before it. And a life where you never feel bad about something is also a life where nothing ever got close enough to matter. The pain and the love are two sides of the same coin, felt at different times. Hopefully you land on love more than pain. The sadness is also how you know that the good parts were worth it. And once you understand that, heartbreak stops being the thing that ends the story, maybe just the chapter for now, and it starts being the thing that proves that there is a story worth telling.
I needed to understand what true suffering was, so I could become more compassionate to others.
And I think that's the part most people miss about heartbreak. It doesn't just hurt you and then go away, it rewires how you love the next time. And if you actually let it teach you something instead of just surviving it and battling on, the next time looks completely different from the first. Because love before heartbreak is mostly expectation. You're chasing a feeling, you're trying to match something you saw in a movie, and when it doesn't line up, you assume something's broken, and then you try this form of love. And then love after heartbreak, if you've done the work and you've built up this new relationship, is more of a constant choice built on reality. You're not waiting for certainty anymore, and you're not putting up this mask as much anymore, because you know that it's not right, and waiting isn't the right thing to do. You're not performing because you already saw where that leads, and you're not confusing the butterflies for the real thing because you know that they fade, and you know what comes after them is actually what matters. But knowing all of that, and actually putting yourself out there, and doing all of this, and making all of this emotional work are two completely different things.
How do I know I'm not gonna mess it up again?
You won't.
I hate to leap of faith.
And that's the part nobody can do for you. You can understand everything this video has talked about, the fairy tale, the performance, the heartbreak, the tax, and still be standing at the edge going, but what if it happens again? And it might, right? That's the honest answer. It might happen again. But a leap of faith means you jump without the guarantee, and if you had the guarantee, it wouldn't be faith, it would just be a plan, and love never perfectly fits into any plan.
Love is putting someone else's needs before yours.
And this is true, but it's also where a lot of people get tripped up, because there is a line between putting someone else's needs before yours and then just kind of disappearing into them. We talked about that earlier with Oscar and Megamind. Changing who you are so someone will stay is how you lose yourself. But changing how you are because someone made you want to be better? That's different. That's growth. It's subtle, but there is a difference here. And you do that on the easy days, and you do that on the days when you really don't want to, and you keep doing it because at some point you decided that this person was worth it, and you keep deciding it every morning, and you keep improving yourself and actually keeping track. And that's basically what Iroh was saying all the way back at the start of this video. Love is a choice, an ongoing choice. It sounded simple then, it's not really. But now you know what it actually costs, and you know why it's still worth choosing.
I would marry you even if you weren't the last man on Earth.
We talked about Fry and Leela in a previous video, and what makes them work is that the show lets both of them grow into the relationship separately. Fry had to stop being the immature version of himself that Leela couldn't take seriously, and Leela had to stop keeping people at arm's length because she was afraid of getting hurt. Sometimes personal development is good. Neither of them did that for the other, per se. They did it for themselves first, and then they found out that they were ready for each other afterwards. And I think that that's something people get backwards a lot. You don't always find the right person and then become the right version of yourself. Sometimes you find that person first, on your own, and then the relationship has something real to stand on instead of just two people leaning on each other hoping neither one falls. And while self-improvement should continue to happen over the course of the relationship, it is also good to have a relationship exist after you've done some self-improvement.
I was never lonely, not even for a minute.
And that's the answer. After everything, the fairy tales that lied to you, and the vulnerability that terrified you, and the performances that hollowed you out, and the heartbreak that nearly broke you, after all of that, love isn't some grand reward awaiting at the end. It's just having someone there in a relationship with you, and you develop that for what it is. On all of the amazing days and all of the fun days, but Also on the boring days, and the hard ones, and the ones where absolutely nothing happens. That's it.
This is my family. I found it all on my own. It's little and broken, but still good.
It wasn't the fairy tale from the beginning. It wasn't what anyone planned. But he found it and he chose it, and it was enough. And enough might be the most important word in this whole video, besides for love, that is, because the fairy tale told you to wait for perfect. But perfect doesn't show up. Nobody is perfect. Enough does. And you can't wait for the perfect person, because that'll never exist. If you let someone be enough and good and you'll work on it together, turns out it can really be everything. We've talked about a lot of these ideas on this channel through different shows and different characters and different methods and different ideas, and I think that most of us know this stuff on some level already. I'm just articulating it more clearly and using examples. But there is a gap between knowing this stuff and feeling it and living it in real life that most people don't take seriously enough. And maybe the way that cartoons keep getting this right, well, the good ones with good writers and good animators, etc., is that they don't ask you to know anything, they just show you and let you imbibe it into yourself.
Want to go around again?
I do.
They decided to do the whole thing over, knowing what it costs and knowing how it ends. That's love for you. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's boring, sometimes it gives you anxiety, but at the end of the day, it's always worth pursuing. A lot of how you love, whether you build walls or keep doors open, whether you perform or show up more as yourself, goes back to what you learned about it growing up. Mainly from the people who raised you, from what you interacted with, from your environment, from what you watched, and sometimes those lessons were the wrong ones. If you want to see how one of the most well-written cartoons ever made broke down what this actually looks like, and sometimes what it takes to unlearn this, we made a video about Zuko and what Avatar: The Last Airbender had to say about growing up with a parent who never should have been one. Go check out that video after you like and subscribe, of course, and we'll see you there. Peace.